In my life, I have met many people with big dreams and goals. And yes, they did something to achieve the result. They started, tried, and undertook something new. But years later I met these same people. They remained the same. The same way of life, the same way of thinking, the same laziness and inefficiency. They started to start, but they didn't have a system. They did not have a systematic approach to achieving results. They lacked a reasonable plan, and in the end, they lacked discipline. Discipline is something that can change a person's life beyond recognition. Discipline is a systematic, reasonable approach to solving any problem. Everyone thinks that discipline involves super hard work or, as they say, super successful success. No, I don't want to promote this. Discipline first of all means the reasonableness of managing your time and your potential. A disciplined person is not necessarily someone who works 24/7 and is always busy. This is the one who was able to intelligently build a system of his further repetitive actions, which ultimately lead in the long run to achieving a certain result. Otherwise, it can be called a cumulative effect. When we do something from day to day, the effect accumulates. Let's imagine a person who decided to learn a foreign language. An undisciplined person who was motivated to learn a new language for himself will spend his entire first day learning the language. Let's say he learns 200 English words in one day. The next day, his desire to continue his studies will abruptly disappear. I think many people here recognize themselves. Motivation is always short-lived, but discipline is eternal, because the first is based on emotions, and the second on habits. A disciplined person will act differently. He will break these 200 words, for example, for 5 days. It turns out that he will learn 40 words a day. Moreover, he will allocate time to study English grammar. Discipline does not mean a lot of work. In this case, such a person just needs to devote a little time to English every day. So, over time, he will learn a lot of English words, learn grammar, learn spoken English, and so on. Again, discipline means intelligence. We can spend the whole day and do nothing for the next few days. The efficiency in this case will be zero. However, it would be wiser to do a little bit every day, because this leads to a cumulative effect and does not make you an ardent workaholic. It saves you time and your nerves. So, we understood what discipline is and why it is so important. Various business books and successful YouTube bloggers like to hang noodles on our ears. They often touch on the problems of discipline. They tell how every minute of their life is painted on paper. It is because of this that people have a wrong understanding of discipline. But people must understand that the most important factor of discipline is the factor of reasonableness. What is reasonableness? Reasonableness is, simply put, when we sensibly assess our capabilities and our time. This is when we sensibly allocate time for our work, for our rest. It is impossible to work all day long, but with the help of discipline, we can spend a little time every day and accumulate a beneficial effect. It is also important to understand that discipline is good in its physiology, that is, it is based on habits, not emotions. That is why a motivated person quickly abandons what he started. If you want not to give up what you started, you need to be patient for 1 month. Your habit will be firmly formed in your brain during this time. So, you have a definite goal in front of you. To achieve this goal, discipline is undoubtedly needed. You are armed with a pen, some kind of notebook, a calendar, and a phone with the internet, because you may need to find something on the internet in order to make the most detailed plan of future actions. You look at the calendar and reasonably calculate the approximate time to complete this task. For example, if you want, say, to gain 5 kilograms of lean muscle mass naturally, then it can take from 4 months to 6 months. In this case, we will only talk about clean, dry muscles. Now you should roughly describe what you should reasonably do in a month, then in a week, then in 1 day. You must clearly and intelligently identify all your small steps that will lead to the achievement of the goal with the help of the cumulative effect. Keep in mind that you always need to start small. You can't immediately load yourself on the first day. Because of such a mistake, you will quickly abandon what you started. After reasonable planning, you can only do the same thing day after day. After a month of this practice, you will develop a strong habit. But it often happens when something went wrong. For example, something happened that you did not foresee. Because of this, the plan is disrupted, and you again abandon what you started. And there are two options here: either you allocate reserve days, or reserve time to complete these tasks, or you distribute this unfulfilled task a little bit on a daily basis. This is the best way not to abandon what has been started and to maintain consistency and reasonableness. Moreover, using the Benjamin Franklin method. Benjamin Franklin is a person who is too progressive for his time. Yes, this is the man who looks at us and $100 bills, the great American figure of the 18th century. I strongly recommend reading his autobiography in order to realize the path of success of an ordinary person who left his home as a child to study and earn money, expand his connections and be useful not only to himself, but also to society. Franklin came up with a plan to achieve moral perfection. He identified 13 essential qualities that he had to learn and that he had to follow implicitly. The first is abstinence, eating under satiety, drinking under intoxication. The second is silence, says only what can benefit me or another. Avoid empty conversations. Order, keep all your things in place, there is a time for each activity. Determination, to decide to do what you have to do, to strictly carry out what has been decided. Thrift, spending money only on what benefits me or others, that is, not to assign anything. Diligence, not to waste time in vain, to be always busy with something useful, to refuse all unnecessary actions. Sincerity, not to cause harmful deception, to have pure just thoughts. In conversation, also adhere to this rule. Justice. Do not harm anyone, do not commit injustice and do not omit good deeds, which are among your duties. Moderation. To avoid extremes, to restrain, as far as you consider it appropriate, the feeling of resentment from injustice. Cleanliness, to prevent bodily impurity, to observe neatness in clothing and housing. Calmness. Do not worry about trifles and about ordinary or unavoidable cases. Chastity. Indulge in amorous pleasures and not often, only for the sake of health or the production of offspring. Never do it to stupefaction, exhaustion, as well as to the detriment of one's own or someone else's reputation. Humility. Benjamin decided to form a persistent habit for each quality, and he did it alternately, moving from one quality to another. He started a book where he made a table. All 13 qualities were written vertically, and the days of the week were written horizontally. With dots he marked the days when he did not observe virtue. A week is the time he allocated for each virtue. To move to another one, you need to have no dots on the previous one. And if he violated the principle of some quality, this quality had to be trained first, from the first day of the week, until there were no points in all weeks. Franklin had a lot of points, but he went through the entire table in 1 year. And his method shows how you can form absolutely any habit in yourself. Let's say you make your own list of desirable habits. This method is guaranteed to help you in any endeavors and will make you much more disciplined. Thus, my dear friend, discipline is your best assistant in achieving results. And that's it, and thank you for your attention. If you want to get more motivation, watch my previous video.